Okay. Say that again. Let's start again, Kate.
Oh, okay. We'll call the meeting to order. It's now 7:08 on our July 9th, 2020 meeting. Can you please take the roll call, Dee Dee?
All right, we got Kate here.
Here.
Erica, Megan, Chris, and absent it is Kathy Grant, Kristen, and Scart. And we also have present is Tom O'Connor on the phone. And I know you're there too. Lloyd and Amy and Adam.
I'm Lloyd and Amy. Okay, great. We'll raise as best you can to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. It's always an interesting one. Okay, do we have any citizens or comments?
There was no emails received.
Okay, great. Then we'll just welcome our guest speaker tonight, Mr. Tom O'Connor, our Food Services Director.
Hi, Good evening, everyone.
Hi,
Hope
Tom,
everyone is well.
This is an annual event. The July meeting is for Tom to give us an update of the food services, and we've been doing it for several years. Tom, why don't you give us the update, okay?
Well, as everybody can kind of imagine, we all came to an abrupt halt in the food services department. So we finished in roughly the second week of March. And at that point, we determined that we weren't going to try to do the grab and go program for Voluntown just for the sheer geographic volume of Voluntown and the amount of labor that we could actually staff and fund that and not make it a financial detriment to the program. So we offered all Voluntown residents the ability to go to Griswold to do grab and go meals, and that still is currently happening, and we'll go through August the 14th. In terms of the program, the staff did a good job supporting us and providing us some inventories that were left over, and did a good job closing up the kitchens. And we've been in touch a little bit since this all happened to kind of give them some idea of what the 21 school year may look like when and if we were open up. So, at this point, Adam would speak better to how financially we ended, because we really didn't have a chance to finish and close all those items up. So the staff is, I'm anticipating them coming back based on our conversations, and we're really a little bit like everyone in a holding pattern as to what the future holds for food service and everyone else.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. First, the grab and go breakfast and lunch pickup 3 days a week was located at Griswold Middle School, and the cost to Voluntown was nothing. They utilized USDA funds that became available, and there was an effort by the federal government to make sure that students were receiving nutritional meals. And Tom, the numbers of participations and meals served are staggering. How many meals did you serve in Griswold this summer?
Right around, I think at this point through June 30th, we had served 86,000 meals from the March 20th through June 30th.
86. Thank you. That's really quite an accomplishment. Now, what did that do to our local budget? Well, we just ended the year, and Rachel just finished a report, and our remaining balance in the cash fund is $3,540. And usually by the end of the year, there's closer to $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. But this still means that we can start off the year because we do make money each year. And located in the consent agenda is the 6-year history of how many meals that we've served per year. But there are certain things. Tom, do you have a price change for anything on the menu, or you're recommending keeping the same prices?
Well, we were going to recommend a quarter raised for paid meals to go to $3.25. So there's the USDA releases a template, and it's called the Paid Lunch Equity Tool. And based on they basically, you use a formulary worksheet to figure out if you can serve a meal under $3.25, which is the new threshold of recommendation. And if you can't do that, then in theory, the Board of Ed needs to subsidize that with a payment for whatever the difference is. So right now, we're looking at recommending that we go for lunch only, a quarter increase for just the paid lunches and just lunch, not breakfast.
That's the student paid lunch.
Correct.
So you're recommending that the board make a motion to approve the cost of a student meal at $3.25.
Yep. Rather than ask you for a check at the end of the year and show the spreadsheet formula for the difference, which we can't, based on our numbers and our costs, produce the meal any longer at $3. That's why we should go to the $3.25.
Okay. And we're going to make a motion?
Well, Amy is going to send out newsletters, and we have to have a board-approved increase in the meal, you know.
Is there any discussion about that?
Just tell me, what does Griswold charge? Are they charging $3.25?
Yeah, based on the tool, it's kind of a unique situation. The state gives us quite a bit of guidelines on what we need to do. Now, the lunch piece seems to be the one that they give you the flexibility on. But to answer your question, all the districts were doing, no one utilizing the tool is able to continue to do $3. So universally, Griswold will go to $3.25. Preston, Canterbury, Franklin, all the area towns will be going up $3.25 based on recommendations from the food service directors and all those, myself and the other areas.
I'll make a motion that we raise the price 25 cents to $3.25.
Okay.
And the reason we did the quarter, they said we had to go to, like, based on the tool, go from $3 to $3.08. Now there's an inflationary index that you use, and this tool comes out every year. So rather than every year increase it pennies and you know, go from 308 to 312, I feel it's better for families just to go the bigger jump, but then not have to jump. And I think Adam and I were looking back as far as 2015, and even maybe before then, as far back as the menus that I have, where we've been at $3. So, you know, we're arguably 6 years since the increase.
Tom, does this go up every year? Like, do we think that it'll be $3.50 in 2022 or?
No, I would say that this inflationary index is roughly, if the index changes, I'm saying you probably out of the quarter, you can get at least 5 years.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we have a motion from Chris. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Erica. Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Just to back up some of the things that Tom said, Tom and I have been communicating, and I am including in the minutes during the recent COVID closing, institutions that participated in the National School Lunch Program were to continue to determine eligibility through the closing, and that's what we did. The next paragraph says that we must comply with all USDA regulations as part of getting this reimbursement, which we have. And then schools were closed in March. Griswold, in a regional grab-and-go breakfast, had that initiated. We would not have been able to have the capacity to serve that many meals at our little tiny kitchen, okay? So that's what happened. And then we're looking at our plan to be submitted when we reopen. And we're looking at, returning to lunch and breakfast being served, but the committee needs to review social distancing and a number of other things with that. One of the things that Tom indicated was that he's already ordered our commodities in January. So there's a USDA commodities, and we get free food, which is worth several $1,000s. And Tom incorporates that into the menu. So we have these things that are coming in, and we have to use them. And it might not equate itself to a grab and go breakfast. So we're looking at a way that we can use the kitchen and to also serve students. And we are looking at social distancing procedures for that and other things. And we'll talk about that a little later when we talk about the COVID-19. Please note that this, all of our kitchen and food services programs complies with our student nutrition and physical activity policy 6142-101. And I'm documenting that in the minutes because we go through accreditations, and the state will come in and send somebody with compliance review. And if we have it documented that the board reviewed this in the minutes, that's a valuable document that Amy and Tom can use when they're sitting down with a state auditor. So I did talk about the Board of Ed receiving comprehensive reports each month. Cleaning and sanitation is going to be a big thing, and we're working in consultation with the health department and other things to make sure. And Tom is very familiar with those procedures, and he has been included in meetings with Amy and Brian and myself to look over that. And we have a large gymnasium. We're looking at perhaps we can set up some things where students would be far apart. And the other thing is that we have several lunch waves. So this may help us with maintaining social distancing and keeping student cohorts together as we look to develop a re-entry plan if the governor says that we can come back to schools. Amy, do you have anything else you'd like to say as far as food services? Tom?
Yeah, Amy, one thing I don't think we've had a chance to touch base to let you know that for everyone to know that we were due for an administrative review, which is a state comprehensive review by the state every 3 years. So Allentown was scheduled to go. Amy, correct me if you remember if I'm wrong, but sometime I think early May. Now they suspended all those in-person audits. So first of all, Amy did a ton of work to prepare for that audit that never happened. So Amy, thank you for that. And now they'll review it next year. There'll be no in-person audits, and they'll do a desk audit review. And once that happens, then the State Department of Ed will now go back to a 5-year review cycle, which was the initial way they did that maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And so Amy did a ton of work to prepare for that, and I think it'll be good to know that it'll be a desk audit, and I feel like all our hard work won't have gone for waste. And then when we do finish that, then we'll be on a 5-year cycle, and I think we can breathe a little bit more. So, and the other thing is there's a piece of equipment in the kitchen in Valentine. It's a warmer that is it became unrepairable. So we're in the process of shopping it, and the girls were limping through just using the oven. Now, I submitted a USDA equipment grant, and the grant recipients won't know now. It usually was going to be June 30th, but with the things going on, July 22nd. So I'm still confident that based on the application of submission, that we'll be able to replace that piece of equipment by the time we start up again.
What's the turnaround time for that, Tom, if you order it?
Probably the unit that we're looking at, probably a week to 10 days.
Thank you. Okay. Because we can get by for a while, but if the grant doesn't come through, and there's a lot of questions about some of the grants now that I'm going to talk to the board later on about, but we may have to take that from school funds to help run the kitchen efficiently.
I'm confident with this one that the state had reached out personally to directors to say, hey, with a lot of the schools that closed abruptly, that there wasn't a lot of people. The funds have already been encumbered, but there was not a lot of people applying. So they're really multiple contacts from the State Department of Ed continuing to recommend that people continue to apply for the grant. So that's never happened in my years of applying for these grants. So I'm positive and optimistic that might be a good sign.
I appreciate that optimism. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all of your work and serving so many meals and offering such a wonderful service to the town of Allentown. I spoke with Sean McKenna just yesterday with regards to the contributions that Griswold has made, and I thanked him for Griswold, supporting you and your staff for running the grab and go breakfast. So that was a real cooperative approach, and I expressed our appreciation of that. And I will also, Dee Dee, I'll also draft a letter that this was expressed to the Board of Education, and they wanted to express their thanks and appreciation as well.
Well, and from Griswold's side, we're happy to help out our fellow communities. I think it's important that we all kind of work together, even on every level. So this is just one of the many things that maybe Griswold and Allentown do great together. So happy to do it from us.
Thanks again, Tom.
Yep.
Tom. Be safe. We'll talk Tuesday. And we'll just move ahead to the consent agenda. Has everybody?
Let me make one last comment. I should have said it when Tom was there. I spent a year trying to convince Tom to become the director of our food services program, and said every time he came through with making it work administratively, he said, "Oh, that makes sense." So we were able to do this, and it's been several years now. And we didn't activate the commodities prior to this. So I'm talking about thousands of dollars of food and commodities from the federal government that have come into our food services program.
That's great. Well, thank you again, Tom. That's really, we really appreciate everything you've done. It's just remarkable, the amount. I'm just shocked and staggered by the effort since March. So
no, thank you, and I thank you, and I enjoy working with everyone in Allentown. So I very much enjoy what I do in Allentown. So thank you for the opportunity that you guys provide me.
Okay. Adam, we're going to run the consent agenda. So obviously we've all had a chance to look at it, but does anyone want to take anything off to discuss specifically?
I did have a note on the minutes that Tracy Hansen was not at that last meeting, so that's an amendment that I'll have to correct. So
okay, noted. Thank you. All right, so as amended with that addition, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So then we're moving on to the administrator reports. So the principal's report by Amy.
I don't know where to start with my report. I'm like, do I start at the top and start talking about what happened in June, or do we talk about really what happened right now? So we'll just go back to June. Some of you were there and a part of our 8th grade graduation. We had taken the suggestion that Megan had brought up. I feel like it was forever ago, but maybe in the April meeting or so, and really asking us to look into Constitution Field. And at first it's so hard to break out of what your normal is, but we had our graduation on Constitution Field. It was a plan by the health district. It turned out better than I could have ever expected it to turn out. We had gotten a lot of feedback
Agreed.
from parents that it was parents who have had the indoor graduation and then experienced this graduation, and how much better they liked this graduation format than they liked the indoor graduation format. A couple of different things that happened during this time. Kids were still asked to apply for awards just like they normally do. We still recognize our valedictorian, salutatorian, but it was a little bit more personalized, where when the student came up, you heard all of the things that they may have received, instead of, if you've been to our other graduations, where it's kind of by award and you don't really know collectively about the students. So that made it a little bit more personalized. It went off really well. So we followed all those measures. We had a great turnout. All of our students were there. We had a summer send-off on the Wednesday the 17th. So we had a drive-through parade. Some of you drove through. We were out there in the blazing sun. It was so hot that day, but it worked out really well. We all, safe distance, and it was really, in the beginning, we actually had a small bridal shower outside for one of our teachers who's getting married. So that's typical for our staff to be able to do and celebrate that. We usually have a potluck or something, and we couldn't for her this year. So Miss Penman, who will be getting married at the end of the month, we had that for her right outside. That was the first time our staff had been together since March 13th. So it was the first time that everybody had seen each other. So it was pretty nice. So we had done that. We did our material collection the following day. I actually had paraprofessionals come back, and they recollected our materials. They sorted them. Mr. Ward has been working tirelessly to go through our returned Chromebooks, count them, access them. I have people returning them still now, which is totally fine. They wanted some extra time to be able to work on programs with their child on the Chromebook that we've loaned, which, come August, we'll just ask that all of them come back so we can reformat and clean them up and get preparation for opening in the fall. We sent end of the year report cards. Our grading was different for trimester 3. We had sent report cards out the week of June 23rd. I did seal all those 180 envelopes, so that was me. If they got stuck together, I was using a glue stick at one point because I was so tired of using a sponge. I just want to congratulate our families publicly for really sticking out the distance learning. It was not only hard for our teachers, but it was hard for families to do. So congratulations to them. They made it. With that being said, for us, moving forward, our faculty, you don't know what you don't know until you've done it. So there are lots of things that we may carry forward, and there's lots of things that we will do and change come the upcoming year, because we realize, what our goal and vision will be for distance learning will be very different than it was in the spring. It was the end of the year, essentially. You're going into a new year, and, it'll be driven a lot differently than it was. So we do have that piece. Hopefully we're in school for quite a while before we have to go that route again. As Adam said, we've been working on our plan, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. We were tasked with coming up with a plan within 4 weeks of how you would reopen a school building, and safety, top priority. So it's been interesting to think of the minute details, and that's really what has made it a long process. It's not as easy. The moment you think of one thing, something else, chain reaction happens. So I think that's really it for me, Adam. I think on one note, nope, that was it. That's it for me. Okay.
I can't thank Amy enough for what she has done with curriculum, with supporting staff, with maintaining communication with parents, with bringing people together to make things happen, even using the stairway in something that we never thought of when that was designed, and it's almost become a stage for certain things. So there's a lot of positives that have happened, but I must say that it has been very, very challenging, and it has been very busy, and it's been busy for the parents at home as well. And we have to, I really do take special pride in what's happening. So thank you, Amy.
I echo that, Amy. That's, just we say it, we said at the last board meeting, but publicly there's just above and beyond that, the staff and yourself and the administration are doing to ensure that, that we're making it through the end of the year and then rolling right into the what if scenarios of what the next year will look like. And it's endless mind capacity to throw at you. And so you're doing really, really a great job. And, from a community perspective, I just, hear lots of love, and that's just a wonderful thing to hear from, as a resident here and, a leader. So it's great.
Yeah, I'd also like to add to that. I know personally, I understand, or I can see, unlike other states around us, I feel like you guys aren't given as much time and notice from the governor and kind of those requirements. It kind of seems like Connecticut's always the last one to kind of hear those things coming down. So that definitely is recognized, at least on my end.
It was late, every week we kept waiting and waiting, and there's nothing we can do. I kept telling people we just have to wait. I mean, go to the beach until we know that, what we can do. I have this feeling like it'll just work out. So whatever happens will happen. Whether we can go back, we can go back. Whether we can't, and we'll just make it work. I think families we are very lucky in Voluntown to be so small and to have such a really close community where families want their children to come and they're willing to do things to help get them there and do things. If staff are going to be there, they're willing to do things, so that we can do that. So I'm hopeful come the fall that we can get back to some sort of, normalcy essentially.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, well, thank you for that report and update. As usual, it's always good to hear the highlights of what has happened and what we're thinking about going forward. So Lloyd, moving on to the Director of Student Services report, love to hear from you.
Thank you. I'd just like to echo the kind words expressed to Amy. She's doing a great job. She even had to cut her own bangs, and she did a good job at it during the course of the year.
I finally got a haircut after when you're here, you finally get a haircut. That's a big deal.
I can hide it all. It's just, yeah.
All right, I had to throw that in, Amy. She's doing a great job. We are operating our virtual extended school year services. Students are receiving one-to-one instruction from their case manager, special ed teacher for the most part, 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week. We do have one student receiving face-to-face just because of the circumstances and her difficulty with going online during the last 3 months, and everybody's agreed to that, and that was cleared by the health people, and they're following all of the good rules, which is kind of a nice trial for this fall. We are planning a meeting. Actually, it got scheduled today, next week, for the department to meet with Amy to start talking about how to provide specialized instruction to students. We want to honor the cohort group principle that they're promoting But as I've listened to a couple of webinars, there is flexibility there. The state's attitude towards reopening is very flexible. Obviously, the first priority is health and safety, but they really want to allow communities to do what they think is practical, possible, and safe. So I'm hoping that with a couple of meetings this summer, we can make sure everybody knows the caseloads and how they're going to deliver instruction and those kinds of things. So we're working on that.
Yes. I just wanted to mention, Lloyd and Amy and I have been talking about this, and we will use some of our curriculum development funds to pay the teachers to come in for the meetings. We're asking them to come in. The other thing that I'm doing is keeping a list of the expenditures that are related to COVID-19. And in my opinion, this is one of them. And if there's any way that some reimbursement or grants come in, we will have this documentation. So we may pay for it out of the Board of Ed fund, but we may get some reimbursement. And if the check comes in, you know that that's sent to the town as an undesignated fund. But there's a legitimate expense there. And that was an account that had a remaining balance from last year. So thank you, Lloyd and Amy and Lloyd, for setting that up with your special ed staff.
One of the things that we did during May and June was to catch up on all of the annual reviews and triennial reviews that had been missed because of the shutdown. And we did catch up. The last couple of weeks of school in June, I was pretty busy, but so were the staff in my department, but we got it done. There are a few evaluations that are going to have to be completed in September just to make sure those are done. But the staff did yeoman's work, and the caring attitudes displayed in those meetings were just warm to experience. The outreach to families, and I'm just so proud of the group that I have the honor to work with. One of the details that I was reminded of, we have more students going to the tech schools, and I reported on that last month. They have opened the doors wider to students with disabilities, and those of you that follow the census enrollment counts will see there's a significant drop, especially when we get into next year, because a student who goes to a tech school, unlike a student who goes to Griswold or NFA, leaves my responsibility. They take over. They become the LEA for the student. So we are no longer involved in the students' educational planning. And the good news is there's no tuition that we have to pay either. So as of June 18th, I chaired 172 PPT or 504 or parent meetings this past school year. And as I said, I look forward to planning with Amy and the department how we're going to provide services next year, and we'll get it done, and the kids will benefit. The teachers are very pleased with the students' progress with all of the individual instruction they've been giving this spring and into this summer through working with the kids through Google Classroom and Google Meets and that kind of thing. That's it. Thank you.
Comment as well with special education. Lloyd, I just can't thank you enough, and working with your staff and with all of the teachers in delivering these special ed services, because it's a challenging time, but Lloyd has kept us up to date and has done an outstanding job with helping guide us through this process. And even this morning, you said you were on some distance conferences with getting updates from the State Department of Education and other sources. So Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thanks. Sorry, I couldn't get off mute. Thank you very much, Lloyd. It's great that you caught up. I think that's a really great testament to your work and your carry through. I mean, I think that's shocking, to be honest, because of everything and how hard it's been. So that's a huge achievement. I commend you. That's amazing.
I'm sorry. One additional thing I want to add. I didn't read my notes carefully. We have. I've been on. I know I put in the request for, and Adam put it on the list, and I'm pretty sure the equipment has been purchased. We will be able to conduct virtual conferences from my office next year. So if a parent needs to participate, but they're still at work, we've ordered a camera and a microphone, so the camera can focus on the speaker. The meeting will be projected through a laptop or a desktop in my office. And I just thought of this the other day. If once we open, we have any staff that are reluctant to come into my office for a meeting with a parent because of health issues, and you know how small my office is. There's no place in my office where we can be 6 feet apart. A staff member could participate with their laptop in their classroom into the meeting and feel more comfortable. And if I need to chair a meeting from where I am right now, actually, I can do that and not have to come into school while whoever comes to the office for the meeting can participate. So we've learned a lot about the value of virtual meetings, and I'm pleased that we'll be able to have the equipment to
Yeah,
allow
Lloyd,
that to be a component.
that's a smart piece of technology that you purchased, because we have used it in our district, and it's been, I can't tell you how great it's been to be able to locate and pull people together from 6 different areas, so we're all in one, segment to talk about stuff. That's actually a really good purchase. I'm glad you were able to get that done. That's
Well,
good.
Jim Ward helped us in determining and acquiring it, and we're excited. And we could set it up anywhere. So if we find that we need to use it at the White House for meetings, it's there.
Yeah, that's great.
It's really good.
Sorry about that. Did you hear, Jake?
Yes, Lloyd, we did purchase that, so it's been ordered out of last year's budget.
Great.
I guess I'm on. I hope I can be brief but thorough, but there's a number of things that I want to inform the board about. First of all, in a separate packet that went home today or yesterday, we had the enrollment report. And right now we have projected 265 students in the pre through 8th grade school section of the school. But with students who are Voluntown residents, it is now down to 234. And we have been seeing a drop in the local enrollment each year. From last year to this year, it was 13 students. The year before it was 4, and the year before it was 17. Please note that we've reduced staff accordingly so that we could save funds. And one of the big decisions that the board made that is becoming very useful for planning for the COVID is having 2 sections of 4th grade, because that will allow us to appropriately social distance the children when we bring them back to school. I gave you a listing as of this date. The board has returned $69,420.26. But earlier today, I received a Kerma equity entitlement of $1,894, which will go into return from this school year. And also, we returned a remaining balance of $2,383.34 from last year's budget. Now, we came up with a 0% budget increase because we made expenditures in last year's budget. The $92,700 bus payment was made by last year's budget. Therefore, we did not have a budget increase. So I think that was significant. In your packet, in the high school enrollment, it says 128 students. We're down a couple of students, but within the last 24 hours, I think we had another registration, and there's possibly another one coming up with high school. So the high school enrollment seems to be somewhat stable. We received a listing of the of what's happening at NFA, and they gave us a report here with tuition relief from NFA, and just to let you know, we estimated that we would save about I don't know, it was about $20,000, $30,000, and right now our tuition accounts do have a $30,000 remaining balance. If we didn't have that NFA adjustment, we would not have that remaining money in the budget. But it's always one of those things where we wind up having new students come in, but we've seen some stability in our tuition and our special ed tuitions. So that is very helpful. I received a notice that Mr. Brian Kelly has been appointed to the next head of NFA, and I received an email from Brian today, and I responded by welcoming him and wishing him well and giving him my cell phone number, and stated that I'm available 24/7 if there's any issues related to Voluntown. I sent you a notice from the commissioner regarding the CT Learning Hub, and the Connecticut State Department is launching that as a resource for people with curriculum to help them along with that. I wanted to mention that Jack Wessa has sent me a note saying the farmers market begins this Sunday, July 12th. I also wanted to mention something about this Connecticut State Department webinar. I believe that maybe Cabe had sent that out regarding Adapt, Advance, and Achieve, which is Connecticut's plan to learn and grow together notice to help us through the Connecticut, the COVID situation. I wrote something to put into the minutes, and you'll be seeing more and more about this. There are efforts to end injustice and systematic racism, and the deaths and continued acts of violence toward Black Americans must be addressed. And we will be hearing more about partnering in local efforts to take positive action. The state is striving to make our state a place where everyone feels equal opportunity can exist and prosper regardless of race. But there are efforts to take positive action to address these issues. I also wanted to mention that, and we're facing this this all the time. There was a notice today that I got the letter at 4 o'clock, and I was very concerned because it says our ESSER application is on hold for the whole nation. And the notice came that it's important to note that this represents a significant change of the established procedures, because the executive branch of the government is seeking to change legislation and redistribute grants to local education funds to private schools. And the letter states, due to the latest ruling from the U.S. Department of Education, they're looking at revisions to the ESSER grant. And until revisions are completed, the ESSER application is closed for further changes. Districts that have started the application will be prevented from changing to the next workflow status. We will be in contact with you when the application is over. And then it said the July 23rd due date is extended and a new date will be announced when the application is available. These are part of our Title I funds. We may not be affected by this, but as you know, if there is state reduction in funding, there's efforts to protect, some of the most neediest communities in town, and the cities tend to get a little bit more than the rural communities. The education cost sharing grant is typical of that. We received an $89,000 cut this year, yet the ECS grants were increased statewide, and there were communities that got millions of dollars worth of increases. I'm in hopes that as they work out this redistribution of contributions, that Voluntown will not be affected. Now, our ESSER grant is for $32,737. And we were looking to use that to help fund certain things as we prepare for COVID-19, technology upgrades, and other things. And hopefully I can have more information for you. And then I really wanted to talk about smaller school districts, because you as Board of Ed members face this constantly. And what is it about smaller school districts that make a big difference? And I have a story. And it starts in 1644. Connecticut enacted a law ordering every township within its jurisdiction, after it increased to 50 households, to appoint one of their own to teach the children to read and write. In 1650, Connecticut wrote a code on schools. And on October 9th, 1662, in Hartford, a charter was read establishing corporate government. Shortly after that, it emerged that the towns became like little republics of freemen, possessed under legislation all the necessary powers to adjust local and prudential concerns. Education of children was considered to be the singular behoof and benefit to any commonwealth. That's Trumbull when he was writing Connecticut history. These early events in the history of Connecticut established the foundation for local boards of education in the decision-making process of addressing the needs of the community. And this is my statement: our Voluntown Board of Education has a rich history of establishing educational programs that meets the needs of the youth of our community. Local control of our small school district allows for active participation at the town level to work together to establish a wide range of education opportunities for our youth. Voluntown is carrying on with traditions and legislations that was first introduced hundreds of years ago. It's the land of steady habits, and I have to tell you that what we're doing on a daily basis as a smaller community, making decisions for our children and using money wisely, I don't think there's many towns in the state that had a no-mill increase and have had budget increases as tiny as ours over the past few years. But that's because of our history, our rich history. And I have some other updates that are coming with Voluntown as a small school district being able to follow through with this tradition that was established almost 1,400 years ago. And what is the best of the past with the best of the future? And you board members have been doing that by the decisions that you've made. So, we handled the shutting down of the school. We worked together and we made it through that successfully. And I anticipate our opening to really help. Now, there's one other thing, and I wasn't going to get into all of this, historical perspective, but right now, about 4 weeks ago, I called up a friend. I told you the story in another school district, and I said, "Hey, you're going to get some money, and what's that?" Well, the HEROES Act was passed by the U.S. House of Representatives. Now, I know it's the first act, and that's the way legislation goes, but Voluntown was listed to receive at this moment $834,352 for this year to help through the COVID. And for next year, the HEROES Act gives us $417,176. Now, this is a proposal by the U.S. House of Representatives, but I can see your minds clicking as far as how this helps us with our budget, with the local taxpayer, with the ECS grants and other things. And it's just initial legislation, but it's being held up. And, this is what happens sometimes. And usually it goes into the Senate, and then there's some, adjustments and other things. It might turn out not to be that much, but it might turn out to be something. And I'm in hopes that there can be some follow through, because there's been some tremendous expenses with COVID-19, and there are efforts to try to help with that. That's just one small component of the HEROES Act. Thank you. Is there any questions? And I hope you don't mind, I got a little, historical there, but I really think that there's been traditions that you're carrying out that were established many, many years ago.
It's interesting to hear some of the history, that's for sure. Connecticut's always been very supportive of education and public education for that matter. But I got a kick out of it. Thank you.
And personally, I look back, I just finished 15 years here, and I look back at what's been accomplished. And I have another thing coming up for the next board meeting. It's going to be, I recommend it on the agenda, and you're really going to appreciate this. It's titled Performance Matters, News from the Connecticut Department of Ed Performance Office, a 10-page report. And they in their Performance Matters, they have towns that they say have been doing outstanding jobs. And one of the towns is in our DERG. And they talked about how this school district was able to move up to 6th place. Let's see, who's been number 1 out of 3 of the last 4 years? It's Voluntown. So, there's things that are happening in our small community that I think people need to recognize. You'll be interested in the report. I wasn't going to give it to you tonight because we needed to do some COVID stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the elephant in the room is the COVID stuff, I think. So we're gonna get there. Well, thank you, Adam. The committee reports, did we put those on the consent agenda?
Yes, I did. And I was going to have scheduled some committees. One of the ones we have to do is transportation, but I'll call Megan to see when's a good time for you to meet, Megan, and come in. And we generally try to get the committee together. There's mechanics on it. There's repair shop owners, and we've been doing well with our transportation. Plus, we want to go over numbers and some of the histories. So I'll give you a call, Megan. Okay.
All right, so I guess we move on to old business now. Item number 1 is the Wheeler High School item, policy 5111, spot 11, designated high schools.
I signed the contract the other day, and And this is to just have the board move to add Wheeler to policy 511.11.
I'll make a motion that we add Wheeler to our list of designated high schools.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any abstained? Motion carries. Okay, item number 2, the 2019-2020 budget, end of year update.
Yes, in the packet that I delivered, I just gave a quick update of, the issue here is that we ended it with a balance remaining of $2,383.34. That could change because you send purchase orders out and prices change. Sometimes things don't cost as much. Sometimes they cost a little bit more. But this is the 15th year in a row that the Board of Ed has not had to go back to the town for additional money. Now, what's going to happen is we look at all of these things coming in, and then in the August meeting, we may have a list of some adjustments we made. Like I mentioned, we kept it a 0% budget increase because we made the bus payment. Well, I had to take that money from other accounts where there were balances. So the board has to approve all of those changes and adjustments in the budget. And if you look, when you're looking through the monthly function object report, there's many columns, but you'll see adjustments that are made throughout the year. So if we have to go over in one account, such as there's a new special ed outplacement, we have to make an adjustment that shows that funds have been encumbered. And then at the end of the year, traditionally at the August meeting, we've gone through the list of adjustments. The board has approved that. Then we reassign numbers within the approved budget. And then that helps us develop our 6-year history of actual expenditures so that in September or October, when we're doing the budget, and we start on that work, I can give you a 6-year history of actual expenditures, and you can see where we've been, and that helps with the planning of where we're going, okay?
I have a quick question on the 2,400 or roughly 2,400 that's going to be returned to the town. Would you be able to purchase like hand sanitizer and other supplies that are going?
That's a great question. No, June 30th is past, Megan, and what we've done is we've tried to, look at what we can do, but I needed to leave a little bit of a buffer in there in case some of the purchases we made go over. And I will tell you this. Amy and Lloyd and Brian, our director of facilities, have been very good with putting in requests, and we have made some requests. And technology is a huge issue. We thought that we could fund buying 20 Chromebooks, and when I was looking at the balances, I found that we could free up some money to buy 40. Because that seems to be a big issue. So we have gone through at the end of the year making purchases. Now, there's going to be something coming up a little later. We started with the custodians painting classrooms and hallways. And I will tell you, some of the rooms have not been painted for 25, 30 years. So we almost made it all the way, but we still had a little bit more painting to do. So later on, I'm going to ask the board to approve a custodian to finish the painting this summer, okay? And there is money in the budget that we can look and do that because we're not using as much money for summer school out of the regular budget. So these are some of the things that happened. So we purchased as much as we could, but if people need something for COVID, we're going to get it. And if we have to come back to the town, then so be it. We go back to the town and say, we have a real challenge here. And I will tell you, if they don't release those ESSER funds, we had some things that we wanted to purchase with that. And I'm in hopes that they free them up.
Are we looking at COVID-related grants out there for us to apply for, or is funding going to
We
become
already
available?
put in, we have a list of like $86,000 that we put into FEMA, and it's reimbursement for
It's under
eligible
FEMA.
expenses. So we've already done that, and
Okay.
everything that we're talking about. But like Lloyd said, he needs to meet with his special ed teachers. Well, if we have to spend money because that's related to distance learning, I'm going to put that on a list. And then when a grant becomes available, we will put that in as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get the money back to us. It will go into the town, but it helps the taxpayer. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so does that cover, that's the 2019, does that cover item number 3 as well, or?
I didn't hear that, Kate.
Sorry, does that cover item the 2020, there was 2 items, the 2019-2020 budget.
I just gave you another copy of what's in the 21-22 budget. And this is the start of the year. And then I wanted to give you something with regards to that. And then at the August meeting, you'll get your first function object report. And just the other day, we went through and what we do is at the beginning of the year, we encumber all of the projected expenses for electricity, fuel oil, diesel fuel, health insurance. We go through this list, not health insurance, that's in the budget, but other things that we can project for the year. And then in the August function object report, you get that and it shows the money that we've encumbered. And that will maintain itself because we don't want to use any of those funds for something else. So that's what happens, and that's the process for that.
Okay. So thank you for that. Any questions about where we're going with the budget? Moving on to item number 4, which is the 2019-2020 last year evaluation of the superintendent. This is our third
request for a motion to move that into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Someone second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move item number 4 to the executive session. So 5, let's move to COVID-19
Yes, I did send home in the packet yesterday an agenda reporting form with the COVID-19 update. And this is changing daily with the template. They issued a template 2 weeks ago, and then Monday at 4 o'clock, they changed it. And we were having a meeting on Tuesday at 4. And then Amy, just before the meeting, showed me another template that has pictures and colors and other things. And I think, I haven't talked to her yet, but I think she took all of the information that we developed and put in one template and transferred over. Am I right, Amy? Basically.
Oh boy.
And we added some interesting things, knowing Amy. But this is where we stand right now. But the issue here is that this committee, and I gave you a sample, well, I gave you the agenda for the meeting on Tuesday. This will be our third meeting on Tuesday, July 14th. And you can see that we have a real cross-section of people. There's 15 people on the committee, and one of the people is Patrick McCormick of Uncas Health, who's attended every meeting. These meetings have been well attended, and everybody has been really working diligently to try to make sure that we're going over all of the details. I also gave you a draft of the plan, and I copied it in color, and I'm saying it's worth it that the board have a draft of the plan in color. But I just looked at the one that Amy had that came through on another format, and that has some other drafts and other things. So that means that the meeting that we have this coming Tuesday will take the content of what we've written and add it into the format, this newer format. But the issue here is there's so many things surrounding this. I gave you this as a sample of the draft of what we're doing. And certainly if you have any comments or other things, Kate is serving as the Board of Ed representative on the committee. If you feel like you need to call Kate and give her any input, or call me, that's fine, or Amy, and we'll try to get that into the plan. The other thing that we gave you is the East Hampton plan, reopening our schools. And Sean McKenna is the superintendent over in East Hampton. And I called Sean to thank him. As a matter of fact, before East Hampton, he was the superintendent over in Griswold. So we had some interesting conversations at 4:30 a.m., especially during the year where school was canceled 12 times due to inclement weather. But he has a central office staff, and he also works with superintendent interns out of one of the universities. So that I think that he had a number of resources, and that has been recognized as a real model plan for the reopening. But the thing that Amy showed me just before the meeting may have some of those components. So the big thing is that we need to schedule a special meeting on July 23rd, and it's going to be the one topic, the reopen plan. And, we would send the board, and hopefully sooner than later, where we are with what's happening with reopenings, because we need to submit this to the state on July 24th. Now, we're not going to be rated on this plan. I appreciate how the new commissioner is approaching things, because he indicated that local communities should have control over their educational program, yes, and that he did not want to dictate individual procedures and other things, but set up guidelines. And he is also looking for creative approaches to how school districts are addressing issues. We should send him some slides of our graduation. But there's things that are happening. It's very quickly, and we want board members to have input too. But I would want a motion for the board to authorize the superintendent to send the plan. So that's where we are with this process. So this is requesting a motion to have a special meeting July 23rd, and we usually don't have to have very many special meetings, but this is needed, and that would be online.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All in favor of having the July 23rd meeting?
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor? Motion carries.
I have a quick question, or a couple of questions. Amy, on the survey that you did to the parents, were there any trends in terms of transportation, face masks, things like that? What are you seeing there? You're muted.
I'm trying to keep my dog from barking over here. One of the things was interesting about transportation. A lot of families indicated, so of all of our families, we probably have, you figure, multiple kids and households, probably close to maybe 100 families, 110 families. So about 70 responded, and out of those 70, I believe almost 80% said they would be willing to help and support in some mode of transportation for their children. Whether that's because they're not comfortable with them riding the bus. Now we know buses. So prior to the guidance issued in June, we were hearing things that buses had to be basically every other diagonal seat. So it really limits you to like 12 kids per bus. Once the guidance came out, it said during basically an opening under restrictions, you can put your buses to capacity, which is different than what we anticipated early on. That's why I'm surveying parents. So I would be interested in seeing now, once we have a plan in place, if most parents would still want to take their children in. There will be some thoughts as to, so basically when you think of how we would reopen, your bus becomes your cohort if you ride the bus. So you would have to ride the bus with your cohort 5 days a week. So if you rode the bus, if you're on bus 1 in the morning, you have to be on bus 1 in the afternoon, because that's how you create a stable cohort.
Yeah.
So those types of things have to happen. But there was I felt a positive indication on there that parents were really willing to help and see if they could transport their child. We have talked about there was some feeling on there for younger students, not so much wearing a mask. And obviously I live in Rhode Island, so it's different for me because my first grader won't have to wear one in another state going to school, but yet in Connecticut, my kids in my school have to wear it. So it's really different. And, I think it's different in how you personally, feel about it. I think it's hard. And I talked to the committee about that, being a parent and then having to, see these kids come in, whether it's with masks and social distancing. I think it will be hard, for kids. Other than that, on the plan, it was pretty generic. The responses were pretty typical, very positive though, of willing to be flexible for days if we had to do an A/B day rotation, willing to be flexible if we had to do, a morning session, afternoon session. But once the guidance came out, it was a little bit more clear on how much we could actually do. We are small. So when they say reduce class sizes to half capacity, well, if we reduce class size to half capacity, it's only 6 kids. But if you're in Hartford and you have 25 kids, you're reducing to 15. Well, we're already at 15. So I think we have a little bit more leeway, especially as you see the plan, to be able to say, we don't need to reduce, but maybe we'll social distance more. Maybe we'll open up more classrooms and more staffing, because kids need to be in school. Kids need to learn reading, writing, math. Those are that math, reading, studies, science, all of those things. And if we can do it and still be small in the classroom, I think it's possible to get a little bit more out of it than what the state model has.
It's so funny that they're saying they put the bus at full capacity, but classrooms at half.
Right.
It's so counterintuitive to say that.
But we
But
talked about that. If you watch the commissioner's webinar from this morning, somebody asked that question, and I forget who answered it, but they're basically looking at it as, okay, well, you have a bus cohort if you're on the bus, you have a classroom cohort. It's not ideal, but at least it's
yeah.
The concept that if one person on bus 1 tests positive for COVID, that whole bus is gonna stay home and quarantine.
Right.
There's all different regulations on how, if it's, how it's spread and that. And remember, our bus seats are abnormally tall. So you can't, well, that's a plus for us after all these years to have these really tall bus seats. Not that it, protects much, but that is the idea that, it's all of bus 1.
Yeah.
Then it would be, them. It's about contact.
Who they come in contact with, and you have to basically have traceability for every one of your students, who they're coming in contact with. And okay.
I don't know. I personally consider the bus a moving germ, if you ask me, on a regular day. So I'm hoping we're really thinking carefully about, when they enter the bus, their hands are getting, on a,
And so,
spraying them down from head to toe.
Yes, sanitizer before you get on the bus, sanitizer after you get on the bus.
Yeah, right.
Make everybody's got their mask on correctly. I mean, that's going to be a situation in itself.
Right.
And hopefully, if parents are willing and able and agreeable to transporting themselves, we are working on a plan where we don't have a car rider because that's just not us. But we will. And I can say, my kids are going to camp right now in Rhode Island, and they have a car line, and they come to the car line, they get them out, they wear their mask. So, I've seen it in action, and I think it can work, definitely.
You know what, Amy, I'm wondering if those numbers will shift a little bit as parents know what their job is going to entail. Are they returning full-time back to an office? Like, I know for Pfizer, they're not going back right now. So their parents may have more flexibility in transporting their kids. But if that was to change, they may not. So it's a constant moving challenge. I can't even imagine. Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the key, is that once schools open, people can go back to work. I mean, and I hate, people get offended by that, but that is the reality. I can go back to work when schools open, and that we want schools to be open. And that is going to shift and change. And so hopefully people's hours have changed, and people are always so gracious in Voluntown. So if they can make it work, I'm sure many, many will.
It's interesting because we wrote about Amy's survey in the plan, and you just received this draft, and you haven't had a real chance to look at it, but you'll look through, and on page 14 there's a summary of the grant. 84.3% of the parents plan to have their children attend school. But the issue is this survey is from about a month ago, Amy.
Yeah,
things have changed.
Quite a while, at least
48% approve of their child wearing a mask. 91% approve of temperature taking. 71% indicating a willingness to supply transportation. 28% said they had to definitely have transportation. And then there was some different changes on modified hours, hybrid learning and other things. But we're going to have to survey again to see, where the status is. But we've been having communications with parents and trying to assess what's happening. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think one of my, as a working parent, one of my, I guess, questions, down the road, you don't have to answer this now, is going to be, if my child is late because, their parent is late getting them to school because they were on a virtual meeting before, is there going to be flexibility with that? Or I know there's truancy rules about kids missing school, but now that I have to keep my kid home because he's sick, I think for me as a parent, those are the things that I worry about. And as a working parent, just kind of juggling it all. And I think that's really what I'm going to be looking for guidance just with my own child. You know what I mean? So.
And I think that really we have to rely on the state for that, because I worry about that as the administrator, saying, I know this kid is out because they're sick. They've had, they're sick. And, as the administrator, then you have to report that to the state, and you cringe because you know that it's because of X, Y, and Z. And so I really hope that they come to a consensus on relaxing those requirements and relaxing the attendance. If you can get your kid there by 9:15 or in 9:20, whatever it is, I think they're going to have to, within the state statutes, relax those type of measures. Especially if we have staggered start, not per se us, but anybody has staggered start times, staggered end times. I think they're going to have to relax some of those. Definitely. Let's hope they do. That's what I'm hoping.
Yes. Yeah, it's,
And
you know,
creative adjustments. So
yeah.
Lloyd has some stories about modifying programs that fall within the realm of meeting an IEP or meeting a modification. So we can be creative, within certain parameters. You'll be seeing some of these requests a little later.
And I really did think that the East Hampton report did a nice job of answering, not answering at all. It was just the way they framed, refer to the CDC report as we are all being governed by this larger whole that is going to dictate A, B, or C. Like it's not like it's always falls back on Amy to say, what do I do? Like there's going to be an orchestrated rhythm to all of this, including policy. And as a board, that's what we need to worry about, the truancy policies, all the things that are kind of going out the window because it's, the governor saying, hey, this is the way it is. But we need to feel comfortable that that's okay to do. And
we have some flexibility within the schedule because our students go to school more days than most school districts, and our hours are a little bit longer. So there are some flexibilities with, around arrival, dismissal. And there's also making sure that we're meeting the needs of families because there are some really extenuating circumstances. And this is a time of extenuating circumstances.
And I do always divert people back who ask, parents I see come, they ride their bikes in the parking lot sometimes and they'll want to ask questions. And I always say, we're really governed, we're governed by the governor. If he says we have to do it, we have to do it, whether it's my personal preference or not. We are governed by the CDC, the governor, his plan. Our hands are kind of tied in that realm. We just have to make the best of what we can and try to work it where it works for us. I think that's the key.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious if you guys are able to propose things, how is the governor getting feedback from the superintendents and things of that nature? Is there an opportunity in this template to maybe ask some of those questions or ask for some additional guidance in that, in that realm, I guess. But, like you said, at the end of the day, you guys have to follow the rules, but hopefully they're taking your feedback.
Yeah.
And I think they have. I think the commissioner has done a really,
yes.
A really nice job articulating that. And I know Lloyd has gone to, like multiple meetings trying to get information out, and Adam meets weekly. And I think that, through all those pieces, it's not a one size fits all. And we have sometimes so specific questions to just us that you want answered. Like, I want to know, can we do this for us? So, I really don't care about anybody else. I want to know if we can do it. And I think that's, that is the hard part. Where do you can't call the governor on the phone and ask. So, those are the things that in those meetings, I think Adam and Lloyd, really do try to bring up.
And just on a sidebar, Fred is reviewing our plan to make sure it's in compliance with legislation.
Yep.
And Adam, are you guys reviewing the high school plans as well to make sure that?
I talked to Sean McKenna yesterday, and communication with the NFA director. They're going to be developing their own plans. And Erica, you're on the NFA staff, so I think that you were nodding your head as we were going through our plan. They're going through protocols, and there's a lot of sharing. And as I said before, Allentown's right in the middle, so I attend EastCon virtual meetings and learn virtual meetings. And then Lloyd also attends some meetings in all areas, plus some statewide meetings. And so, there's superintendents that have high schools in there. And yes, the high schools have to be in compliance. The big thing that we're looking at with high school is the transportation and, some of the rulings related to that. And also we want to make sure that we're keeping the children safe at all times. So hopefully as we move along, our designated high schools will send us copies of their plans because they're going to be available on July 24th. And I think that we'll see some similar procedures.
Yes, I can assure you that we are in heated discussions at NFA, as I'm on a few committees myself, trying to figure this out. And it is a web of difficulty, I tell you. It's like you think one way, and then you come up with all these other challenges you got to think about. And NFA, we have 8 sending towns. It's going to be the transportation. Like I said, I'm so glad I'm not in charge. Let's put it that way, of making, these big decisions. Good luck to the new head of schools at NFA. He's got a job ahead of him for sure.
I saw that. I was like, wow,
Yes.
what a time.
We have only one person at the top who's remaining. Everybody else is new. Everybody.
Everyone jumped ship. We're not dealing with this.
It's going to be an interesting year. Not boring. It's not going to be boring.
No influencing Amy or anyone else on feeling overwhelmed.
Motion to have a July 23rd special meeting, COVID?
We already did that.
Yeah, we did it.
We did that, Adam.
Did they already do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're good. From a board perspective, I know we are waiting. There's this kind of trail we need to follow to get through everything. And one of the highest dates is in a couple of weeks to get this submitted plan, this reopen plan. It's kind of pre-formatted by the questions and the suggestions that the state's giving us, and then our kind of our stockish answers without a whole lot of nitty gritty. So I want to share with you that being on this committee, we need to get there. And what I really want to help share and develop is a communication plan for the community, the parents, and the staff, so that they feel they can make decisions to feel comfortable to come back. Because right now everybody is like, what's going on? And we don't know what we don't know. So I just want to, commit that right now we got to get through this one phase, and then we will really work together to have a fulsome communication plan, for all interested parties. But great work so far, considering. Any more on COVID-19, Madam?
No, I'm all set. Yes, one little comment. When we have our administrative team meetings, we have 1.8 FTE positions. And I've been in some school districts where there've been 17 FTA, full-time, administrators and stuff. The difference is, just like now, being a smaller school district, we can make decisions very, very quickly. And I do think that has an impact for implementing things, because we've had turnaround times of one day. If we see an issue, we can change so quickly. And Lloyd is smiling because he's been there to see that. So we move quickly, Lloyd.
Yeah, my only feedback on this committee is I guess it would have been nice to have a parent that was, or 2 parents that were truly just in a parent capacity. I know you have Kate on there and Rachel on there, but they're kind of wearing the school hat and the parent hat. You don't have anybody who's just speaking specifically from the parent. So I don't know how deep into this committee you already are, but if that's a possibility, I think that would be something that would provide you some really valuable feedback. But, just wanted to say that.
Okay. We had to move pretty quickly, yes.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2 meetings within inside of 2 school days to get started, and they changed the format in between, but we can certainly see what happens with that.
Tracy's on there as well as a parent, but yes, you're right.
Right, but she's still in a business town capacity. Everybody, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Understood. Okay, well, moving on to, if there's no other questions about that. Oh, I love the show and tell, Amy. Yes, I love your dog. Look at that, cute. Sadie, is it? Cute.
Black fur and white coat. She's trying to get me to play with her right now.
I just heard my son get attacked by ours upstairs, so there we go.
My dog's trying to do the same thing. I keep pushing her way down.
You know, we might need sort of a mask break. We might need like a COVID break and show and tell our animals just to have like a fuzzy time. Megan, you have to show your baby, please.
She's long asleep at this point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, so we've been looking at the Board of Ed mission statement for a few cycles now. I had a quick edit, but I don't know if anybody else had any edits to it to kind of make us all come to an agreement on it. We don't have everybody here, but.
Kate, is it possible for you to, you know, you had those options and you've been working on that, but we still mix them together unless you think we're okay with what your suggestion is to, you know, maybe table it for another meeting and give everybody a clean copy with all of the other stuff that we're not going to use off to the side.
Okay, yeah, that's
Just
fine.
table it for the next meeting.
Yeah, I thought I said option 3-ish was everybody's preference to work from.
Yes,
You do have time to cut out everything else.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is just say, this is the mission statement, no other options or other things. And then people can look at the pure wording that is the final document. So just tabling it until the August meeting.
Okay, sounds good. So motion to, well, do we even need a motion or not? No, we don't. Right?
No, you don't.
Okay. All right, so that's a good idea. We'll do that for next meeting. And the item number 8 is the Board of Ed goals. Wait a second. Throw mine away.
I think last week I had recommended that we add something about fostering an environment of accountability.
Yeah, that was added the first bullet point.
The first bullet, right? Okay. All right. Just making sure that that was what that was intended for.
Yeah, I was looking to, in the spirit of fostering you know, cultural competency and all the things that we're thinking about, you know, aside from COVID, but really trying to have some accountability and raise cultural awareness and really, you know, work at some of these kind of systemic biases that are probably innate in a lot of the educational materials and whatnot. And I'm sure, Amy, there's a lot of things out there. Probably you're seeing it in, I've seen it for years as they're trying to weed things out and sift through whatever might be in the system, right? But I thought maybe in just on 7, maintain a school climate in which all school community members feel secure and valued and developing positive relationships with others in a climate that reinforces civic responsibilities and cultural diversity. So just adding in cultural diversity at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
I know number 3, I've talked to Adam about this, and I see it a lot in the CADE materials that, you know, trying to hire and support and retain top talent, obviously is definitely a goal, of course, and especially retaining in our district where the salaries aren't always as competitive, but
Not as robust as we like them to be.
Right, but you know, learning the providing professional learning and staff elements, but the fact that we don't have a very diverse staff and that we understand that, and it's hard to hire. It's hard to hire in our area in that way, but it's just something I want us to all keep in mind that, you know, as we think about policies and whatnot. I know we might not be able to do this for a goal for this year, but it's something that I think we should keep in mind as a board that, you know, seeking to get some diversity within our teachers and our staff would be good.
I don't think we should specifically seek diversity. I like to hire, support, and retain top teaching talent. I mean, we don't want to seek diversity to the detriment of that at all.
Yeah, I was saying that around that topic, I just wanted to bring it up as I'm not going to say I need to seek out and change policy, because the policy is out there, Chris, that you're just, it's regulations. We've read them, looked at them and stuff over time, that there is language in that to try to seek, which I think we pick at the top talent, whatever we have, and we always do that, and we do a really great job. And me being on the board for 3 years now, I've seen it, how well we go through the hiring process is very exhaustive and thorough.
It's interesting. We have had to cancel Nick Caruso twice already, and Nick gives workshops all over the state, large cities, small cities. And when things get back to normal, I think this is an issue to bring up and to talk to Nick about some of the successful practices that are happening in other areas. But we've actually had to cut back in teachers over the last few years. We just haven't had any positions, and it's just something that has been a challenge.
I do like adding the cultural diversity to number 7. I think that's good, and it is something, I agree completely, Kate, it is something we as a board should absolutely keep in mind.
Kate, just a comment about recruiting. My observation is historically we've posted positions and waited for candidates to come to us. But in a previous situation, we reached out. We found out where local colleges, or when local colleges had I've forgotten the phraseology I wanted, but basically they had set a day aside for representatives from different schools to go and interview or talk with graduating students in teacher education. So sometimes it's more the practice of how you reach out than it is the policy that's on a piece of paper, and trying to recruit people of different persuasions or different cultures. All large urban communities are very actively involved in trying to recruit representatives from the minorities that are in their schools. So there's a lot of competition for talented, trained people from minority backgrounds. But you can still make an effort to reach out and see if someone is interested in coming to a small community and see what that would bring to their teaching life as an experience. That's it.
I also think it would actually enrich our students to have more cultures and diverse teachers, so they could learn about things that they're probably not we live out in the country here, that they're just not exposed to. And
that's an interesting approach, Lloyd. I didn't ever think of it like that. I've never thought of.
The other thing we could explore, and I experienced this many years ago at Hartford Public High School, is an exchange experience. We had one of our colleagues at Hartford High go up to Longmeadow, Massachusetts for a year. And a teacher from Longmeadow who was interested in working in an inner city school came down and worked with us. So and it doesn't have to be a complete year. It could be a semester or something along that line that could be explored. Obviously, you've got to have someone willing to do the exchange, but it might be a way of bringing diversity to the school as a strategy.
Just one thing, the rest, EastCon and Learn used to run special programs where, it must have been 10, 12 years ago, Ed Duncan and some other teachers participated in a partnership with an inner city school. Amy, you remember this. and we went and visited them, and they came and visited us, and it was part of the regional education resource centers. But funding was cut. There were other things that happened, and they could not maintain the program. They also supplied transportation. So there were some things that we were doing that perhaps we could look at that were very successful.
Yeah, when I was at Haynes, we had a partner third grade class out of one of the schools in New London, and they spent some time together. And there was an actor educator who helped facilitate some activities in the two schools, and then the kids shared the projects that they had worked on. It was a good experience for both schools.
Great. Yeah, just having, you know, throughout the year, I mean, I think I've echoed this before, but I just loved when they did the Frida Kahlo, like, whole assembly, but it was ingrained in the throughout the curriculum of that particular trimester, where they did their art projects, you know, with Mexican art, and then they did, you know, they learned songs and music and all sorts of things, and they weaved it in, and learned the entire history of it, and then did a celebration with parents and community in an assembly that was I thought that was really well done. And, you know, I think I'd like to see that more, where there's, you know, events where, you know, all cultures are celebrated and in ways that we can do that. So, okay, well, I think are we in agreement kind of where on the edits that we made for the goals for this year? Or do we want to kind of chew on that a little bit more?
No, we have to publish these because we give these to the teachers and they're preparing their goals for the year.
Okay. So as amended, can we make a motion to approve the?
I'll make the motion to approve the education goals for the 2020 to 2021 school year.
A second. Thanks, Chris. Chris seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Dee, did you get that edit?
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Great, motion carries. Thank you. And then we have administrative goals for 2021, number 9. There's my paperwork here. Yeah, I have kind of a similar note about curriculum here, you know, just along the lines of promoting cultural competency. I don't know if you want me to, I just wrote a note here. It's promoting cultural competency where cultural diversity is celebrated and with no systematic disparities to academic outcomes based on race, ethnicity, gender, economic status, or sexual orientation. So that's something that was within the CABE sent out a kind of a toolkit, and it's you probably have all seen it, but it's kind of on every newsletter that they have. But I thought it was very interesting and valid to read through and kind of understand the mindset of cultural competency. And I think in terms of how we want to, for a goal for curriculum, that we keep those ideals in mind.
I wasn't sure if this document, and because it is specific to the 2020 to 2021 school year, should reflect anything regarding the COVID, just because that's going to be such a hot topic and take up a substantial amount of time for, you know, the administration of the school, if it was worth maybe reflecting that in here.
Yeah, it's almost across the board. There needs to be an adjustment in business manage, COVID reference there, in infrastructure maintenance, a COVID reference. I'll see what we can do to add a couple of things. And it's interesting, I think, based on students as a focal point. There's a lot coming out now with COVID-19 supports for, changes. We'll get some wording in a couple of areas, Megan, okay? And see if we can come back to that.
Is there a timeline on that one?
No.
Okay. All right, so that sounds good. We're moving on to new business now. I'm losing my agenda everywhere.
Yes.
Thank you. So there's the Title IX coordinator
Yep.
for 2021.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so do we have to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve Kathy Groth.
Okay. A motion to approve Kathy Groth as the Title IX coordinator for the 2021 year.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Megan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, the school readiness liaison for 2021.
I make a motion for Amy Cefaletto.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Amy, you didn't vote.
I thought maybe somebody else wanted to vote themselves in for that.
No thanks.
I'm sorry.
Item number 3, the school medical advisor. A motion to appoint Dr. Galen as the school medical advisor for the current school year.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Dr. Galen donates this to the school district, and he's always there to be available for us.
Mm-hmm.
He's amazing.
Mhm.
Dr. Larry.
So just a quick curiosity, what is his role in COVID? I mean, from a medical advisor perspective, is he on our committee?
He signs off on our school all hazards plan, and the nurse can call him anytime to consult with any physical thing. As we move along, he would probably take a look at our COVID-19 plan. And but we work with Patrick McCormick of the Yonkers Health. But we would send something to Dr. Galen because he would be involved in any issues that we have with medical, requirements.
Yeah, just that liaison point for, that especially during school hours. Okay, so item number 4, the projected faculty and staff.
Yes, there's a slight change, and I think I put it in there. Would I like to have Kathy Groth be called, and I'm going to change the title of the job description to counselor/social worker, because we mingled those together, and we left it on the roster that it's social worker, but that's the title. So I just wanted to inform the board on that.
Okay.
There's one other little thing on the faculty staff, and NFA has a special ed program, and it requires a paraprofessional. Other school districts usually include the paraprofessional in their program. So we have students who are outplaced at, say, EastCon. Well, they have the teacher and the paraprofessional. NFA has requested a paraprofessional. It's in the budget. It's part of our regular account, and we'll be posting for that position because we have to send somebody down to NFA to help with a student.
Amy and Lloyd, speaking of paras, how did you guys make out with your CNA need that had been discussed previously?
With the, I didn't catch that, Megan.
there was a previous expression that there either is a need or there soon will be a need for a more skilled para for one of your students. Is that still?
We had an adjustment, Lloyd. We had an adjustment in one that a para wasn't required, correct? And then we have this other one that is required. So we did save some funds in one part of that. The requirements for a para weren't as much. I think they're sharing a para, so we shared the cost.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll have a more definitive assignment schedule as we start up the school year, but there were some changes over the summer with regards to that. So there's a full-time para that will be down at NFA, and then there was a para in another place that was supposed to be full-time, but we're getting half the cost, not the full cost. Correct, Lloyd?
Yes.
Yeah. And that just happened within the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and one of our paras does have the CNA license. So when that's necessary, that person's assignment can be changed.
Okay. Any other questions on that? So item number 5 is the budget preparation timeline and process for 2021-22.
We're preparing for 2021, 22 already.
Okay.
There's some interesting projections that I want to tell you about as we move along.
Are you saving that for a later show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Adam, give us a break.
That's going to be very difficult, Adam, the rest of the administration, to put a budget together during COVID-19. It's going to be very interesting and hard work for you folks, and good luck. So
Thank you. Amy and Lloyd are very good with putting in requisitions as well.
We're also very cheap.
Bouncing ball. I mean, on a trampoline. Yeah, that's a good description.
Okay. So item number 6 is personnel. Adam?
Yes.
So
Julia Stans, a summer certified special ed teacher, one-on-one tutor. Lloyd, that's like 2 hours a week for the summer.
Yeah.
It's part of an IEP follow-up, and we posted for that, and there is money in the budget for that, so the board should approve that position.
So moved.
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There's a second one here. It looks like to approve Nancy McBride as a certified teacher, one-on-one high school tutor.
Yes.
Do you want me to speak to that, Adam?
Please, Lloyd.
We have a post-high school student who is expressing interest in using an iPad Pro for design. This youngster has, well, she's a young lady now, but has a strong talent in art. And it's been a challenge to find transition services for her. And when the family expressed an interest in that area, I reached out to Nancy, and from a religious standpoint, somebody was looking in my direction that afternoon because she just bought one and was in the process of learning how to use it in her design work as a retired art teacher. So the plan is to put these two people together for a few hours a week as they mutually learn how to use the iPad Pro as a design, so that the youngster can begin, the young lady can begin exploring creating a business doing graphic designs for businesses, in addition to other training she's going to receive through Sharp. So I was so pleased that Nancy just, I reached out to her and the cards fell in place. So I'm really pleased with that. And then with Adam's support, we ordered the equipment for the student to use, and it should be, I'm hoping it'll be a good experience for both of them.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve Nancy McBride as a certified teacher one-on-one for a high school tutor?
Yes, I'll motion.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Will she be paid hourly? Is that how
Yeah.
you typically
Yeah.
handle that?
Contract goes. And it's not a lot of hours a week. And as a matter of fact, this is a savings from the other transition program that was there. So it was very creative. And we were looking for ways to help with the transition, which we're mandated to do by state statute. And they can make out their own schedule. And I'm sure that it will be very beneficial to the student. Extremely beneficial to the student.
Oh, Adam?
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think to put this in my report. So this is sort of like a flashback to my report. We received notice within the last week or so that a federal judge has ruled in favor of a class action appeal to redefine the length of time that we service students with disabilities. Historically, we've been responsible for a student through the school year that they turn 21. But the complainants contested that it should be the entire 21st year of the child's life, which translates to services ending on their 22nd birthday. So Shipman and Goodman issued an opinion that the state should appeal this judge's ruling. And recently on a webinar that the bureau chief reported on, they haven't appealed it yet, but it hasn't been moved to, I've forgotten the legal terms, but a docket where it becomes law, so to speak. And the State Department is considering appealing the judge's ruling. But if that judge's ruling stands up, it will extend the time that we're responsible for students with significant disabilities. Typically, those are for students with intellectual disabilities or autism. And once the student accepts a high school diploma, then services cease. But it's something we're watching very carefully, because it could affect the length of time that a small number of students that I'm responsible for, that we would have to provide services for.
Right now, on our list, students who are grade 12 plus in our tuition account, there are 5 students. And this is a Connecticut ruling. The federal law states once a child turns 21, the services end, and then the states are supposed to take over. But in Connecticut, it went to 21, and now it's moving up again to 22. And when they compare the special ed cost of Connecticut to the other New England states, we have this additional year, or now 2, in which there's laws saying that we have to provide services. The state has cut back on the services that they used to offer, and they're putting some of the conditions onto the local school district. at the August meeting, I might give you a number of what this 12 plus tuition means, and might have to carry it over for some additional years if this is put on the docket. So it's an interesting concept.
The ruling is a few pages long. We could include it in the next board packet. So you
I think that'd be good. It's good to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. Yeah, we can include that for the next meeting. Are there any more personnel updates, Adam?
Yes, approve of summer custodian to paint. I think we're just doing 3 or 4 weeks until we finish the remaining classrooms. We've been going through the building. We've been painting, we've been cleaning, and this means that where do you see the school? Looks great. And we've been wanting to do this for a while, and it will help with cleaning. Some of these things have been painted for 30 years, yeah.
Second.
Okay, Erica, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so I think that ends our new business agenda. So suggestion for next meeting will be the 23rd, correct, Adam? The special meeting?
Yes, that'll be a special meeting, and then there's the list for the next regular meeting of items.
Okay, so August 13th is the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll definitely have a lot of COVID updates, I'm sure. Reopening updates. We're going to recirculate the vision statement, so that'll come out around again, and then the administrative goals will be sent around again. And then more budgeting, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the performance matters, that CS, Connecticut State Department of Ed performance report.
All right.
Adam?
Yes.
Just a reminder, August 13th, I'll be out of state.
That's
Just
okay.
so you know. Thank you.
Does anybody else have?
I'll be out of state, but if you do a virtual meeting, I can attend virtually.
Thank you. Okay. So we need a motion to move into executive session
Motion.
at 9:10 p.m.
I'll second that.
Good night, everyone.
All right, good night.
See you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hang on 1 second. Let me end the recording and the live stream. Stop streaming.
Streaming has stopped. Okay.